Hey, what's up everybody? Back with another video. And if you've been watching my series for a while, you know that I'm very big on like just the beginnings of like when I used to play, and like I've interviewed the Shawn, Perfect Asymmetry, and I just interviewed Stefan, 123 Kid, and there was such a vibrant community even before we started playing, and there's a lot of myth and lore surrounding the person that I'm about to interview, and so I'm really excited for this interview. And you know, when I got on the scene, I always used to hear about like the best player in New York, Shawn Ironfoot, like how good he was, and so that's what I have with me today. So this is Shawn.
What's happening, guys?
Yeah, you let everybody know who you are, and you know.
Yeah, I'm Shawn Tinling, aka the Ironfoot, OG DDR player from around 2000 to 2002, 2003. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for coming.
I'm very much looking forward to to chopping it up with you for a little bit.
Yeah. So why don't we get started with, I think this is like the stereotypical question, but like there's so many questions on here that I just don't know anything about, that I was always curious about when I was younger and I played DDR, and I was like passionate about it. So yeah, let's get into it. So like, how and when did you start playing?
Okay, I started playing in like around in 2000.
Okay.
2000 I started playing. I started playing on DDR First Mix. Long time ago when dinosaurs roamed the earth, and played at Broadway City Arcade in Times Square. I kind of got introduced to it by accident. My game of choice before DDR was Top Skater. I was pretty good at that.
What is that? Is that the?
It's like the skateboard simulator.
Oh, you stand on the skateboard?
Stand on a skateboard from Sega. Yeah. And like I used to play that all the time. And one day, Dorian, one of the techs over at Broadway City,
Dorian did work at Broadway City.
Yeah, he did.
Okay. Yeah,
saying he was watching me play, and then just one day he was just like, "Hey, why don't you want to try this? Give this game across the way a try." And I'm like, look at the Dance Dance Revolution. I was like, dude, all right, I don't know. It's all right. I'll pay you. I'll give you a couple of credits. Come on, let's just play this game a couple times, and and then I started playing for a little bit, and I got hooked, and it started basically just started playing that exclusively.
So Broadway City was the first arcade that you got. So what were you going to? You were just going there because you liked playing video games at the time, and you liked Top Skater.
Yeah. I like to play. Top Skater was my game. I happened to have I had a full-time job. I worked in Times Square.
Okay.
So like on a lunch break or whatever, I would just kind of like walk on over to Broadway City, and it's like I'd get a couple of games in, and then go back to work, and that was just kind of my routine for a long time.
Okay, so that in 2000, man, like it must have been a crazy time relative to the way things progressed for arcades in New York City and in Times Square.
Yeah.
Like I went on a date in Times Square one time, and I remember this arcade called XS. Do you remember XS?
Yes.
It was on, I think, the same block as Broadway City, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember going back after I started playing DDR and looking for XS, and it must have closed down.
Right. It's like that was a really weird time where I think that was really towards like the tail end of that whole arcades was really big in the city kind of thing. Because I remember even some of the older arcades like Playland and stuff in Times Square was still open around that time.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Oh wow. Yeah. I've seen that arcade in a couple of documentaries. Like a lot of people talk, especially people who play fighting games, they talk about Playland.
Yeah.
Nice. So what were the other arcades like in New York City besides Times Square?
The ones that I would go to, I'd play in Port Authority. They had Port Authority. They had DDR there. They're like the little tiny little community. I would play the other arcades in the city that I played in. Barcode, that was in Times Square also. Laser Park, which was kind of like, it was Laser Park was around 46th and Broadway. And that's for the most part that was it. You know, I know some of the games that we'd end up catching games in like New York Dance Sports out in Queens.
Yeah.
But you know those were the arcades that I was, you know, that I frequented most often.
What about China? Did you go to Chinatown?
Chinatown, you know, oh my God, Chinatown Fair is like one of those kind of places where I couldn't just. The players in Chinatown Fair, like, all I wanted to do was just beat everybody up.
Okay.
It's like Chinatown Fair had the kind of like that kind of player community where, you know, like it's like and everybody just had this whole one-upsmanship on each other, and not even in like a fair and kind of way, you know, like in. Because I know, so especially like playing DDR like in Chinatown Fair, one of the things that would happen would be you'd play a set of like whatever 3 songs, and then some yoke right comes up right behind you and then wants to play those exact same 3 songs but on a higher difficulty. I've seen people, you know, it's like I've seen players get done like that. You know, like somebody's like, if they're playing on standard, this guy's got to play on heavy, or if this guy's playing on light, this guy's got to play on standard. And I'm like, I never understood that. And it just this whole just, you know, like, oh, you in our house is kind of, everybody just has their chest, you know, their chests all puffed up, and so I like most of the time I couldn't get through a session at Chinatown Fair with like seriously without like wanting to beat somebody up. So I just stopped going.
Fair enough.
well, what about you?
Yeah, well, I think in one of my videos I mentioned like the thing about Chinatown, it was a cool place to kind of congregate, but not to play DDR, because like. There was like, I felt like every arcade, whether it was fighting games, whether it was DDR, whether it was like whatever you played, had like an unspoken code of ethics. And in Broadway City, it was just like you put your card up. When I played there anyway, you put your card up, you wait, you play, you chill in the meantime, but that's it. But in Chinatown Fair, they used to shadow a lot. We hated that. They would like, you'd be playing a game and like they would just walk across the screen between you and the DDR player to like go say hi to their friend. Like completely disregard. And then there was like the body odor thing, and like that's not to talk about everybody in Chinatown Fair like that. But I'm not saying anything that nobody already knows.
Right.
You know.
Right. It's like you had to be wired a certain kind of way to like get through Chinatown.
I asked because it's definitely like a part of arcade history in New York City, and it's almost. Is it considered a lamb? I don't know. It's like everybody knows Chinatown Fair. You know the song Brooklyn Zoo by Old Dirty Bastard? He did one of the renditions of that video in Chinatown Fair. So I think it was in a couple of movies. So I definitely iconic.
Yeah, Chinatown, it definitely had a lot of history there.
Yeah, it's just for DDR it was kind of rough. It was kind of rough. What about I hear a lot of people before my time talk about Smiles. Did you ever go play the
Smiles? I did. I played there. Smiles was in like a part of like Flushing, Whitestone that was not the easiest for me to get to.
Okay.
Because you know when I lived in Queens, I lived in Jamaica. So you know like E-Train country. So I would just basically just go on out there. But Smiles, it was a nice arcade. I got there towards the end of like its heyday.
Okay.
Some of the, I want to say they had like a DDR. I want to say they had DDR USA. I think last mix they had when I was there.
Okay.
And it was good. It was fun. Like I didn't really run into anybody that like any normal regular players or anything like that.
Oh, it was just kind of a DDR machine in the midst.
Right. It just happened to be just a DDR machine. Just there were cobwebs and shit on it, and I was like, all right, cool. I mean, we'll stomp some of these out. So
cool. Are there any other arcades? I think that's really it. Laser Park, Broadway City. Barcode especially. Like I want to get more into Barcode as we get into the interview a little bit more, because I believe, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that there was a tournament at Barcode, and it seemed like it was a lot more prominent in the earlier mixes of DDR.
Yes, it was a lot more prominent early DDR, and that's funny too. It's like I talked to one, like after your interview with 123 Kid, we ended up like meeting up for drinks like afterwards, and we were kind of talking about that. Yeah, and it's like, it was like the same thing that we were just talking about, like just craziness, man.
It just seemed like I've been to Barcode. I've been to Barcode more times than I can count, but not enough to be like I remember it as being part of DDR like that. First of all, from what I remember, after a certain period of time, they wouldn't let you in unless you were 21 and over, right? So like that was like, and back then I was 18, so I couldn't always go into Barcode. But it was still New York City-ish, so if you knew somebody, like I think Stefan knew somebody.
Yeah, Stefan knew somebody. He's like, it was like some special event. He was actually able to get in there.
Okay,
yeah.
So, and then it was just like, it just had an interesting allure. It was an interesting concept that looked pretty cool. What about Mars 2112? Was that open when you played DDR or no?
It was open. I heard there was a machine there. I did play Mars 2112 once, and it was kind of like it was like Smiles, like when I went over there, it was just like a machine just happened to be there, just out in the wild kind of thing.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So around this time, you started to play a lot more, and you got more interested in the game, I'm assuming. Like, who were the other players that you started to meet around this time?
Okay, so some of the other players had Christine. Mika Matsumoto was like her handle back then, and so she was actually one of the first actual good players that I actually came across in my travels.
Okay.
She was a freestyler, and it's like. We'd run into each other in the arcade, and after a while, we ended up building a friendship, and it's like, and started getting more of the game, and then more players would kind of enter the fray. You had Jan, you had Brina, you had Dorian, right? We'd kind of come together to form JDS, and they were the people that I ran into, and so it was really weird for me because everybody, all the players, everybody at that time around 2000, they were really big on freestyle.
Yeah,
they were really big on freestyle, and I seemed to be the only person in the city who actually cared about the technical end of it.
But how did you get to that? Because I could understand why people would be like that, because it's a dancing video game. So without any context, you would just think that that's what you have to do. And by the time I started playing, and a lot of people, I would consider myself like a fifth mix player. That's when I started playing. By that time, people had already come up with the idea of I'm gonna do this for a score. So that wasn't a foreign concept to me. But you're talking about the beginning of DDR. So how did you? Does that come from your previous video games, competitiveness?
Right. It totally came from that, and I remember and it was me and Christine and I ages ago. We used to kind of butt heads on that subject. Me and a couple other players, just the fact that because I was just really focused on the technical end. I wanted to run up as high a score as possible, right? And to which I was like, oh, it's not supposed to be like that. It's supposed to be a dancing game. It's not supposed to be that serious. I'm like, okay, if it's not supposed to be that serious, why did Konami put a score on the bottom?
Right.
It's like if it's really not that serious, why even put points up? Yeah. It's if the object is not to get a higher score as possible. To which I'd never that was the hill I was willing to die on. I'm like, it's like I'm gonna try to I'm gonna get all these perfect steps, and
that makes sense. Yeah.
Just as time went on, and as I started focusing more on the tech end of the game, other people slowly started to join me. It's like other people were like, oh, okay, he's just playing for, he's just trying to run up a high score. It's like, all right, I'm gonna do that too. But I was the from what I understand, I was one of the first in the city to care about my score.
I don't know if I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but when I spoke to Stefan 123 Kid last week, this is something I kind of already knew, but he made mention, or he put a lot of emphasis on you and Jimin, Vagrant Fiend, and he was saying that because in my head the timeline is, and I've mentioned this in a lot of my videos. To me, it's it was you, and then Shawn, and then Stefan, and then me, before the new wave of, I say new, it's not new, but 2006ish when In the Groove came. That to me, that's the divide of old world and new world. But it was you, Shawn, Stefan, and me. But Stefan and a few other people had made mention Jimin was up there.
Yeah, Jimin was up there. He was one of the top players right around the same time, and he and I basically kind of started working on the whole tech end of like DDR, like pretty much together right around 2000.
Okay.
I think as far as like player experience, he may have had me by a couple of months. But for the most part, we both were just kind of like, coming up both in the game, just trying to figure out like step patterns and, it's like new step patterns and, and trying to better our scores and everything like that. Okay. He was definitely one of the influences, like, cause he was a top level tech player for a while himself. And, it's like most of the times, we'd end up running into each other and, then it would just basically just be me and him just beasting out whatever. And then,
That's interesting. Like, the thing is, like, Jimin was always so opinionated about, like, DDR, and in a semi-passionate way where, like, he would just have opinions on step patterns and, like, what's good versus what's not good and what people should be playing versus what people shouldn't be playing. I don't know, like, I don't have his contact information. I would love to interview him as well because his name is very consistent throughout, like mentioned with you and then to Shawn and Stefan and even me. Like I've played with Jimin a lot before I got to like the peak of my DDR gameplay. And I say this like, I don't know if he'll get to watching any of these videos or if I'll get to interview him, but I always feel like people had their closure in DDR, and that's also something I wanted to ask you later on in the interview. But like for Jimin, he was in a DDR like movie. I don't know if you've seen this or come across this. There was like this DDR movie that somebody made. It didn't come out in theaters, but like it was just like this production, and he was in that.
Yes, I heard about it. Okay. I heard about it. I have not seen it.
Yeah, I don't even think I watched it, but I was just like, that's nice that he got something out of it. Because we all put so much time into DDR, and it's really cool that he got that. So you were saying like you started playing on first mix. Was there a second mix anywhere in the city?
It's like the second mix. Well, the second mix actually came with second mix was actually bundled with third mix.
Okay.
Right. So like we got access to second mix because we had third mix. Okay, because at Broadway City, the way that the mix progression went, like they had first mix, then they went to third, then they went to fifth, then they went to seventh.
Yeah.
And then I think like Extreme and Superman over after that. Right. But so once third mix came, then because there were certain and at that time in the game, it's like if you were playing it's like if you were playing like heavy Maniac level songs, like you had Step Revolution, which was his own separate menu, with his own separate like everything, right? You couldn't just go up to a third mix machine and just like, and like how in current mixes where you could just, you could be playing like light mode and then somebody else can be playing heavy, right?
You couldn't do that.
So you couldn't do that not on third mix. Like you actually had to, you had to let somebody know, like right before they were about ready to jump on the pads together, like just let you know I'm playing SSR. There was no way out of that.
You had to.
Like there was no way out of that. Like if it was either you're in or you were out, right? But then also a couple other things that they had in them, then they had like a key pattern that you had to do for SSR, but then there was also another one that you could do, and then it brought up second mix.
Oh, okay.
Right, and then the second mix songs, which you actually could do, you could do heavy, like you could do heavy songs like or Maniac songs at the time, like next to somebody who's playing like basic or trick. And so it was a lot more versatile for for the arcades, to actually play a bunch of songs with a bunch of people of like random like skill sets and abilities. It made more sense to do second mix. But to answer your question, we did have some exposure, but I think it was really just by luck.
Okay.
That we got it.
And I hear sometimes people will mention in these older mixes. I've chatted with Jan like on Facebook Messenger before. People have made mention of like either second or third mix Korean version. Was like there a big difference, like a noticeable difference?
Yeah, well, the Korean version, third mix Korea 2. That's probably my favorite of all of the mixes.
Oh, okay.
And one of the things that it had it had all of the standards from third mix, but then also had a lot of K-pop songs on there.
Okay.
Right, that you could not find anywhere else. right? So, and it was one of those things where, you know, New York Dance Sports, and it was at Sunnyside, Queens at the time, and at that was like the only store that actually had it, and so it was crazy. It's like, you know, like people would come from all over the city to play. You know, they could play third mix, but then it's like, oh, what's this? You know, then just random K-pop songs, you know, that you could play too, and you know, it was. And they were good. They were fun. They were upbeat. And they were challenging too, which made them like a lot of fun.
Nice. So, damn, I just realized there's a few other things about third mix that I used to take for granted. But from what I remember too, third mix by default, if you played on heavy, it was flat, right? Yep. And so you had to do stuff to make it not flat, right?
Yeah. There was a special. Like you had to step in a code like on the pads, to make it like to turn it vivid or left or right or whatever.
Was this all new to people, or were people very opinionated on like, you know, Konami makes it flat by default, so we should all be playing flat if you're gonna play a Maniac, or like it doesn't matter? Or?
No. Well, at that time, no. It was just because flat was, you know, really hard to read. Right, and especially too with the earlier mixes, you know, the earlier mixes had like the whole frame rate issue, right? Where, you know, like I think third mix and earlier had like a, you know, certain, so then the arrows kind of looked a little choppy on the way up, coming from the bottom to the top of the screen, and then when you throw that in, and the fact that they're all the same color, it made it really, really hard to read. So, and you know, to the point where just everybody would, you know, put in the code to make the arrows vivid. Okay. You know, which became the default in future mixes, and nobody really batted an eye with that.
What about, and this is like big for New York, what about the bar back then?
The bar. Oh my God. Yeah, the bar. Okay, I am a no bar player. It's like I'm firmly no bar. Like, and I was the whole time I was playing, and we were really big on not playing with the bar.
Why? Where did that come from?
Well, playing with the bar, because it just, I don't know. It seemed like, you know, because, you know, when you got to some of the higher level songs, you know, playing with the bar just seemed like a crutch, you know. And a lot of the players that, you know, we would come across would, you know, they would hold on to the bar like they needed the bar. They needed the bar to actually move around. Where, you know, like we were, you know, when we came up, we didn't really look at it like that. It was like, well, it's like the bar's there in case you know, I mean, if you trip and if you stumble, okay, fine, so you don't bust your ass. But otherwise, we just never really relied on that, because it was there more as a safety thing, and not as a, you know, like a gameplay tool.
You know, when you mentioned how important freestyle was, I used to, when I first started playing DDR, I used to watch Stefan play, and then before Stefan, I would watch Dre, and I'd watch Darwin, Nate, Nat, and all them, and they would kind of use the bar, like it's not like they needed it, but like if they were freestyling, they grab onto it with one hand and you know, just kind of keep it smooth, and I thought that was really cool. But because I started playing in New York and around other people, and like you, Deshawn, Stefan, Big Matt, Jimin, nobody used the bar. That was just kind of how it was.
We just, and we didn't even talk about
it. Wasn't even like
we didn't talk about using the bar, not using the bar. We just didn't.
Yeah,
you know,
it was like a known thing.
Right, and it was right. It was one of those unwritten rules. It's not like, you know, we never actually had, like, it's not like there was ever like a committee where it's like, look, guys, you know, we can't be messing with this bar. Right? It's like we didn't even do any of that. It's just we just didn't. You know, and it's like, and then, you know, what would start to happen was that, like, players would come, because Broadway City, you know, it was in the heart of Times Square, like, and that was like my home field. So it's like if you came to Broadway City Arcade, more than likely you were gonna run into me, and, you know, like, probably Jimin and a couple other people, you know, because that's just where we played. But what started to happen after a while was that, like, players would come from other, you know, from elsewhere. You know, they'd come from New Jersey, they'd come from upstate, they'd come from Connecticut or wherever, Long Island, and they would be bar players. And and then now that was kind of like where all that friction started to happen when everybody comes into Broadway City, and then they're sitting there holding the bars and it's like look at this guy, look at this guy over here, like this guy with the it's like get this shit out of here, playing with the bar and just so and it just and then that and it I think if like Broadway City players just stayed in Broadway City and people didn't come to Broadway City, I don't think it would have even been that much of a debate.
Yeah.
It was just because we just started seeing like playing styles from like people from elsewhere where we're just like, it's like, dude, no, not this bar shit. No, we can't.
That's interesting because that's just how it was for us too. Like, but I just, like, the more I played DDR and even after I stopped playing, I was just like, yo, like, I'm still kind of like that, but like I always eased off of it like as I started interacting with the rest of the community. Mm-hmm. But it was just like that where I was just like, I'm not gonna rely on the bar, like and it just seems like the further back you go, the more it was like that. Mm-hmm. So that's interesting.
So we didn't rely on bar, and then there was also just the fact that as far as like game difficulty, the game. I can understand in the days now of like of 18s and 19s, like mm-hmm. Just for safety reasons, people would need to use the bar so they don't end up like breaking their ankles and stuff. But back in the day, at one point, Paranoia 180 was the hardest song in the game.
Really,
which it's like any DDR player worth their salt now is like it's the craziest thing to imagine. But at one point in time, that was the hardest song in all of DDR, right? Where it's like it's really not that hard. It's like it's not a hard song. It's not a difficult song. It's not a song that you would feel the need to have to hold on to a bar just like to save your life to get through this minute and a half. Like it's not that serious, but the game started progressing to the point where like I don't give bar players I don't give bar players like too much shit about it these days. Mm-hmm. But back in the day, it was not to happen.
That's why I wanted to ask you also about like the perception of difficult songs around that time. But mm-hmm. before we go to that, like in terms of other players, I also wanted to ask you about Dorian because he seemed like he also had like a lot of like the people I played with seemed to like prop him up as like this freestyle person. Mm-hmm. It may have been part of the Broadway City tournament. I think he won that one, which we'll talk about as well. But like, as you started playing, like, what was Dorian's role?
Dorian's role. Oh my God, Dorian. He's a great dude. He's a really good dude. Yeah. And it's like Dorian, Spiderman. Mm-hmm. He was a freestyler. Right, he had such a critical role, especially towards the later mixes, as things started to kind of like ramp up, because like how do I describe him? So, like he was a freestyler, but then he was also he was a tactician in basic play, right? Yeah. Where he never played anything too hard or anything too difficult, but what he did really, really well. Right. Okay. So what was happening, especially towards the later mixes and like where some mixes of DDR, it's like some songs were locked, right? Yeah. And the only way to unlock them was to score points, and the way you could score more points was that if you got AAAs on certain things, right? It's like which kind of sped up the process, and that was Dorian's job. That was where that was Dorian at his most Dorian and his most useful for New York City DDR, because he actually helped everybody level up their game, because he actually gave everybody access to songs. Yeah. Just because he'd be on it'd be on a basic step chart. It's like 160 steps maybe, nothing crazy at all, right? And he would nail every single one of them things. He'd nail every single step. He'd get like a AAA, which would be a whole bunch of points that come off of off of this thing, and then, oh my God, Dorian just unlocked something else. Yeah. Like that, he was the key master. He was the key master at one point where he was just like.
That's funny because like that's how I really got to interact with him. But by the time I started playing in fifth mix here, his reputation had already kind of been established. But in seventh mix especially, that's what he did. Like by seventh mix, a lot of the fifth mix era players, like in my generation, were already deep into DDR. and that was what we call that the seven mixed score wars.
Yep.
We're like 8 on the break. It was 8 on the break, Broadway City, Chinatown Fair, and then maybe FYE in Long Island. And it was just like who's gonna unlock what the quickest. And Laser Park too. I forgot who was like a prominent player at Laser Park, but Dorian, like, this is also when AAA's even on basic were like impressive. And he would get up there and he would AAA stuff and and go on DDRFreak
and do it constantly. And that was the thing. And it's like, and that was the thing. And even to this day, and it was crazy because like even like a basic level song, right, where the steps are just it's like you'd be amazed, even something with that kind of like really low stream, like to actually be able to get the timing on something like that, like good enough to to AAA, and it was just, that was his gift, like and like I would, even to this day, I'll put him up against any high level player on a low level song.
Yeah, he's really accurate.
Like he'll beat him. Yeah, absolutely.
And that's kind of leads into the perception of like difficult songs. And I said this during Stefan's interview. I tried to allude to this in Deshaun's interview. Is that the reason why I think it's important, like in the realm of like documenting New York City DDR history, is that like you didn't have anybody to show you how easy this was. So up until the 10-footers, well, not even, I can't even take credit for that. Up until PS Simone, I was really just doing what I saw you guys doing. Like I heard about Shawn and Dead End, which we could talk about. Like there was like I don't know how true it is, but there was like Dead End was like stupid hard, and you were the only person who could do it at one time. And then there was like what Deshaun did, and then was what Stefan did. So like it's, people don't realize how impressive like Paranoid 180. Like I by the time I started playing, it wasn't the hardest song in the game, but I could appreciate like how that must have been back then. It's funny now, but back then it was just like, yo, yeah, like some guy must have just passed like guys must have just been like, yeah, some guy passed Paranoid 180 or something like that, or Shawn passed Paranoid 180 again, or Shawn full combo Paranoid 180. Right. So like, what was the perception of difficult songs around this third mix time?
Third mix time. So yeah, like what the difficult songs were. Well, Dead End was one, absolutely. Then you had it's like, what else do we have? We had
Graduates to Cyber was on third mix.
Graduates to Cyber was that was a game that was a song. Yeah, it was one of the difficult ones, but I don't know. There were a lot of players just stayed away from that one. Just because
it sounded weird.
It sounded weird. The steps, like the step pattern was weird. Everything about the song was just weird. You know, like, so as far as like something to enjoy, nobody enjoyed playing it. It would come up. It would come up in tournaments because you'd have to know them for tournaments. But but for then you had Captain Jack.
Yeah, Captain Jack.
Captain Jack. That song. Tricky. Yeah, that song was pretty rough. Afronova. Afronova was another one where it was just just running across the pad, just like all kinds of crazy. But yeah, so those were the catastrophic, the 9-foot.
What was songs. The perception of Paranoia, Rebirth, and Evolution?
Rebirth, like Evolution was hard, but not like hard. Rebirth was definitely hard. It's like, I know that was a song where like, God, Vagrant Fiend. Yeah, that was his jam. Yeah. that was his song. Like, and he played the hell out of that. Like, I played it well enough to say I could do it, and kind of left it. So that was definitely his lane. Where Dead End was mine.
Okay, all right. Yeah, that's I always find that so interesting. Like, and like people don't realize how difficult something is when you don't have anybody to kind of show you like how to do that kind of stuff. So like, what was your motivation for being able to do Dead End?
As I just started getting into the game, I got to the point where I actually wanted to just know every song in the game. Right?
What do you mean, like by know as in like be able to pass it, or
to be able to full combo, to pass, yes, but ultimately just to be able to understand every step in the game, right? And the way that I kind of approached the game was different than a lot of other players, even at that time, where I made a concerted effort. It's like, okay, I'm gonna learn all the 4-footers. Right, okay. I'm learning all the 4s. Now all the 4s, okay, and I'll go to the 5s. Then I'm gonna go to the 6s. Then I'm gonna go to the 7s. I'm gonna go to the 8s. I'm gonna go to the 9s. and I was the only one of the few people who actually took that linear type of approach to the game, because like what a lot of old players will do, right? It's like, oh, this looks like this will be hard enough. Let me just go jump into like whatever, right? So like that. As I started getting a little more into it, and then I would actually see like a couple other players, like this guy Reggie, he'd come to town. Wonder what happened with that guy. So it was like there were a couple other like random people that they weren't really part of the community. They just happened to be good at the game at that time.
They just kind of pop in.
Yeah, and they would just pop in. It was like, yo, who's this dude? He's nice, and I would never get a name or whatever. It's like, but then I would see these people just coming and doing like Afro Nova on heavy, and it's like, or doing like Dead End or Captain Jack or Dynamite Rave, which was another one.
Dynamite Rave actually was not that easy comparatively. Yeah, you're right. Dynamite Rave was not that easy comparatively. Yeah.
So, so as time went on, and I just wanted to, and I just took the songs like one at a time, and I just I needed to know them all.
Okay. I forgot to mention earlier. I hear about a guy. Was his name Mike Doubles Mike, or like somebody? Was he really good?
Mike Lou, yes. Player? Yeah, he was like Doubles Mike. That was his nickname, and yeah, he was a Broadway City regular. From what I understand, he was a. He was a guy. He had a corporate job, and he would always come in like shirt and tie and everything, right? And he'd come into DDR. He would only play doubles, and it'd be like max difficulty. Usually, it'd be like like Afro Nova doubles, which was just, if you've ever seen that step chart, it's just ridiculous. It's just basically just running back and forth across the pads, and that was his game. And he'd come in. He would never do singles. Because apparently, I think he had like a PS2 at home, so he had singles on lock at home, right? And doubles was basically his way of like, okay, at $4 a game at Broadway City, and he'd go in there and just do that. He was a solid player.
I forgot to ask about that too. I should have asked other people, but like, it just seems like doubles was just, maybe it was the money aspect of it, but like everybody was just okay with accepting that doubles was more difficult, but it wasn't part of like the main gameplay storyline of DDR, right? Like, especially at Broadway City. Sometimes I tell people like, we had it rough. Like, I feel like when we got a new mix, it was $250 a game for the first couple weeks, and then it would go down to, then it was just $2 a game.
Right.
It was a lot of money to just play it, but it was also the vibe, All right, so you did briefly touch on freestyle, and I wanted to get a little bit more in depth of like how freestyle was perceived back then, because even when I started playing, it just seemed like that was almost the way to go.
Yep.
It was like a choice. Like, it was like, are you going to be a freestyle player or are you going to be a tech player? But if you were a freestyle player, it was like you were good. Like, that was not a bad choice to go. So like, how was it back then?
Well, I mean, back then it was all freestyle because at the time, I mean, I was the outlier. I was this one guy that like, it's like, yeah, he's just worries about getting perfect on all of his steps, right? And like, the New York City DDR community at the time, they really didn't know what to do with me because I was the only guy who cared. Everybody else, they were all freestylers, right? And that was just kind of like the whole aspect. It's like they were all dancers or wannabe dancers, because I mean, you had you had Mika Matsumoto, you had you had Sora, you had Paolo, you had who else?
You were playing around the time that Nobody Jen was playing?
It's like Nobody Jen was playing, right? She was she was a freestyler too, right? And it's it's Nobody Jen or a couple of, and I mean, I'm trying to remember like Dollar Bill, he was another one of the guys, and they treated it with a whole bunch of showmanship, even for non-tournaments. They would come in and it's like sometimes they'll have like a top hat, or they'll have like a cane, or they'll have whatever kind of whatever props or whatever. Hey, I want to work on routines, and that's what people did, which was crazy. But then I'm looking at these guys, I'm like this whole dancing thing, it's kind of silly, except and I don't know, and it was funny because in how over the years and how it just. Freestyle it's not even a thing anymore.
No, there's like a small community of people who play on Ace, which I think that's the newest one is called DDR World, but like Ace or the newer DDRs that like they have tournaments. I came across it on YouTube and I was like, that's awesome, man. But that's like probably like 0.01% of people. Most people they play just for score now.
Right.
But it's like such a heartwarming feeling to think back then about how people were trying, and I think Konami was also like they weren't sure what their market was, or their initial intention was for people to dance on this game. So a lot of the steps are conducive to that. Whereas now ain't nobody gonna be able to freestyle to like even max 300. Like who's freestyling to max 300? Like, what was their intention? Their intention was to make a difficult song, like Dead End 2. Like by third mix, they were like, nah, we're gonna make these songs difficult. It seems like anyway.
Right.
So like you started playing with a lot of people, and then it seems like at some point the group JDS came about.
Yes.
So like what does JDS stand for? How did it come about? And like what was like the vibe?
It's like, okay, JDS, it depends on who you ask what JDS stands for. It's like, so simply the core members of the group, like the core members of the group were Jan, Dorian, Sabrina, right? Okay. So JDS. Right. It's like, and then also, it's like, where we were joking around, like, and we would call, we say like it stood for like journeyman dance syndicate, because we were like the Gen Xers in the group, right? Because it was me, Jan, Dorian, Brino, we're all roughly around like pushing 50. Dorian's a little over 50 now. Okay. Right. And so at the time, when we started the game, I think I started at 24, right? Which, it's 24 for a video game. It's, like, I don't know, for DDR, that was like, we were like dinosaurs, like just being that old playing the game. But it was it was me, Jan, Dorian, Brino, like, and we're all in the same boat, like just these old heads just playing this game, right? So that's how we kind of like we linked up and became our own little group.
Yeah, but when I came onto the scene, it would just be like people would say like, yeah, JDS, they come and they play DDR on Friday, and then they all go. Because most of us were under 21s, so they'd be like, yeah, and then they all go to the bar afterwards, or they go bowling afterwards.
Right.
And it just sounded like y'all had y'all own vibe. So who else was in JDS besides the four of you?
Okay, so there was us. So then there was Hop, Skip, and Slide.
Joseph.
Yeah, Joseph.
He's a cool guy.
Yeah, he's a cool dude. He was part of the group, and then at one point, Omar, Laura, Officer O, from DDPD, like he started off in ours.
Did I know that? I feel like maybe I knew that and I forgot that Omar was in JDS.
Yeah, it's like he was like a fringe member. He was there, and and then after a while, and I think he just I know he went off to
yeah, he wound up in that other. There was another group called Tactile. I don't know if you remember Tactile, and then he started DDPD with Stefan.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. All right. You mentioned Dollar Bill. Did Dollar Bill come to Broadway City a lot?
No, he did not.
Because he lived in Jersey.
Yeah,
right?
He lived in Jersey. He lived in Jersey. So you'd much sooner catch him at like 8 on the break in Dunellen, than like coming all the way up to coming up to the city. Yeah. He'd pop in every now and then. And it's like, and it was the craziest thing too. It's like you pop in on a Friday night, and it's like oh shit, it's Dollar Bill, It's like, but no, he made like his appearances in the city were, I don't want to say few and far between. He made appearances enough, but not really so much at Broadway City. He'd go to like NYDS or Coney Island or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about Rodney? Did Rodney come around a lot? Or?
Rodney, he did come. He came around, around a fair amount.
Because I know he like lived in like the uptown Bronx area, but I used to hear that he would come down to Broadway City a lot. Yeah. So it just seemed like Broadway City was just like the place to be.
Yeah, it was, and it was just like, and like the community, just the vibe and everything, and and it's like in true like New York City arcade fashion. It was just like it just became that whole thing where you could be like a casual player, but you better be real about your shit if you're gonna actually if you're gonna come and play a game. And it's okay if you're not even good, but we're gonna have a word about that.
Yeah, that's New York. That's just New York City.
We're gonna have a word about that. But yeah, you can play if you're not good though. But so.
What other groups were not only in New York but just in like the tri-state area? Like what other groups were going on around that time?
Other groups. I mean, God, we had. Okay, so the groups that we had around that time, there was there was JDS, then we had Triple Break. Triple Break.
What was that?
Vagrant, Fiend.
That was his group.
Yeah, Vagrant's group. Right. So it was Vagrant's group. It was him, this guy Ashen Victor.
Ashen fucking Victor. That guy was a fucking troll.
Yo, oh my God, it was fucking. And it's like this other. I forget the other guy's name because he actually the other guy who was like. Like he actually didn't have a nickname. It was just his regular name.
There were three of them. I remember there were
three of them. And they were like, they were just like, like on the best of days they were trolls.
Yeah.
On the worst of days they were goons. Like that's just kind of how they were. Like
Triple Break.
It's like it was basically it was Vagrant and Ashen and just basically just going on the DDR groups and just trolling the shit out of everybody.
See, Jimin would come around, but that guy Ashen Victor, like. I think after a certain period of time, he couldn't even really come around because I had told that guy, I said, if I see you in person, it's on. And I think a lot of people would say that to him.
Right.
But I do remember that.
And I was one of the first people I remember, like, because I actually eventually figured out who Ashen Victor was because he was like hiding behind his keyboard and stuff. It's like a little tiny little Asian kid, just kind of like, it's off the shadows, just kind of like, and it's like, and I just kind of looked at it one day, I was just like, I was pretty revered in the group. Like, they had a lot of respect for me. So like, we were always cool. Like, I didn't have a problem with that. So, it's like, since I was cool with them, like I found like all the trolling, all the goonery. It was just funny.
Yeah,
it was funny because they were never coming after me. I mean, poor Jan. They used to come after her like really hard, call her a bunch of nasty names and stuff, and like other people in the group and stuff. But it's just like, what,
it's kind of how it was in New York.
Yeah, it's like then right, and then like other groups, you had the Dragon Ball clowns out in like
Long Island. That was around the time that you played too.
Yeah. Like so you had them, but now as far as like other groups, they weren't really a thing yet.
You know what group I used to hear about a lot? This was before my time.
Mm-hmm.
But apparently, like in the older days of DDR, Connecticut was a little bit more involved than New York City DDR.
Yep.
They had a good player. His nickname was Jesus. His name was Jesse.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got Nugget. But they apparently had a group called Rand Corp. Do you remember that?
Oh, the Rand Corporation. Yes, absolutely. How did I forget about them? Yes, the Rand Corporation. Yeah, it was Nugget, this guy Pierre, and a couple other people. Pierre was like their tech guy.
Okay.
It's like he was the guy I'd end up going up against in like tournaments and stuff.
Okay.
Like, and then Nugget was like the freestyler who, the Rand Corp. Like
the rumor was that like, if you wanted to be in Rand Corp, this was, I guess, by fifth mix. It was like you have to play Dropout 10 times in a row, or something like that. Because Dropout was like one of the hardest songs in fifth mix. So, and then like there was a group that Stefan reminded me of in Queens called Lag, but I don't know if that was before or after you.
Yeah. Oh, Lag. Yeah, they were. No, they were around. Like, and it's funny. It's so long ago too.
Yep.
It's like because Lag was basically, God, they were like. It's like that. They were basically Triple Break hopped up on like Hello Kitty.
Okay.
It's like that was basically that, like because they were they were that kind of like that kind of like Hello Kitty kind of energy, but they cook you too. It's like they knew the songs they knew the people they knew, like, and they wouldn't hesitate to take shots at you and stuff like that, like if they don't like how you're playing or how you're talking or whatever.
Yeah. Was there like a thing between Broadway City and any of the arcades, like, and what, like competitively or
competitive? No, not really. I mean, I didn't think so.
Broadway City was just
Broadway City was. I mean, it was Broadway City.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of like I know there were a lot of DDR players, especially around that time, who they would travel a lot. You know, they would go between, you know, like Broadway City, or go to Chinatown, or go to like Coney Island, go to Long Island, go to Crossgates Mall up here in Albany. You know, they
really back then?
Yeah, they were doing all of this trap, but I never really did any of that.
Okay.
You know, because I was like, well, why? No, this is my house.
Yeah.
Like it's like, look, you want to come meet me? You meet me in my house. I'm not going to travel. You know, like I wasn't trying to do all that. But.
Okay. What about New Jersey DDR? Like we mentioned dollar bill, but like in terms of tech, it seems like Jackie's name comes up a lot.
Yeah, her name came up a lot, and I've never like I'd played I've played around her, but I never really played with her.
Oh, really?
Right.
Okay.
No, because it's like the one time when, you know, because she came, I know Jackie was a player. She came in for the Broadway City tournament, right? Because there was one that actually happened like it was a couple days before 9/11. You know, like, you know, the Broadway City tournament, and she came. I remember Jackie comes in, and I mean, I knew of her, but it was only on that day where she just wrecks everybody at this tournament, and we're all like, who the hell is this girl just coming and she's just like, she fucked everybody up on these pads, and we're like, oh my god, this is like incredible. And I remember like something with her playing style was like just the laser focus.
Oh yeah.
Like I remember seeing some photos from the tournament, and like just the fact that like at one point in the song, like at one point there was I think she was up against like one of Nugget's friends. Like I don't think it was Pierre. It was like some other guy. It was she was playing in the final set against this guy, and like Brian was just like, and you know, Nugget's being Nugget. He's just goofing around, and like the song, like the tournament was like pretty much in lock, because like Jackie had such a big lead over the guy. You know, he could have just stepped off the pads and just just like conceded, but instead, you know, so then Nugget took that as an opportunity to kind of like he jumps on the guy's back, and they're basically all wrestling they're all wrestling with each other, and there's like 150 200 people at this tournament just screaming and hollering, and here's Jackie. Like it was the wildest shit I've ever seen. Like, you know, like it's like there's like, you know, there's a kid jumping on another kid on the player 2 pads, you know, where 200 people are yelling and screaming at this and this girl, and she kept her combo. Yeah. She kept the combo. I'm like that was like the craziest shit I ever saw.
I know what picture you're talking about.
Laser, just dead eye focus. It was the craziest thing I ever saw.
So with that tournament, because that tournament is like, for New York City DDR, I heard about that tournament a lot. There's a couple of so Dorian won freestyle for that tournament, right? And that picture, you ever seen the picture of him on the pad? That picture.
Yeah, right.
Yo, I don't know if if that was me, I would frame that picture and put it in my house. That picture is really cool.
It's like, who's to say he didn't?
Yeah,
he probably did though. You know, but no, it's like, and oh my god, that tournament, it was a crazy tournament. It was an important tournament, right? Because I mean, that day, it was the whole vibe, like the whole DDR scene. It was crazy. It was just electric. Just going in there and you're seeing, you know, the back room of Broadway City. Like they were still doing construction on like the area, so there was like dust like all over the pads. Like it was mad dangerous to even be playing DDR, but we just did it anyway. And you know, but just like all the people like who came in, and just like the whole energy, like the whole vibe, and then the fact that like everybody was like good and everybody knew that they were good, and you know, but
so who was it that got, like, you entered the tournament?
I entered the tournament.
So who eliminated you?
Who eliminated me? I think I lost to Pierre. Okay. I lost to Pierre in like one of the earlier rounds. Right. And you know, so like I ended up getting there were 2 divisions. There was like a basic division where I think I got knocked out by Pierre, and then there was like another one. Then there was like the heavy division, or maniac division. And that division, I actually beat myself that day.
Okay.
You know, like I brain farted on the whole pattern and just the whole pattern just went to shit. And I ended up like failing on the song. And I just walked off the pad. I was just like, you know, it's like, and like, I mean, I mean, I'm still a little embarrassed about that to this day. I'm even gonna lie to you, because it was like, I mean, that was my house. Yeah. You know, it's like just for, you know, it's like everybody just to see me on the stage, just kind of just blowing in my own house. I was like, damn.
Yeah, but all of it is so new. So like the laser focus, and like even back then, like I try to explain to my wife when we talk about it sometimes. I'm like, even back in the 5th Mix days, nobody was like coming to the arcade and changing to play DDR. Like, you know what I mean?
No.
Like people were playing in whatever they wore to get to the arcade.
Right.
And there was like, at some point in time, like around the 7th Mix Extreme era, people started coming.
Like, and they water with the water jugs and like the buying, like in you know, big towels, and they actually were like preparing to go to war kind of thing, you know.
So people were like, you know, like the focus. Or like you're saying, like brain farts, like this is all new, so like people had no basis of comparison. So like I get it, I definitely get it. Other tournaments that I used to hear about. So there was a Broadway City tournament.
Yeah.
Was there anything else memorable? Oh no, I did want to ask you about this. I gotta ask because like I've been trying to get the footage for the Broadway City tournament. Do you know about that story?
Oh bro. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh my god. Like, when I even think about, bro. Okay, so there's this guy, Alan Benemer, I believe his name is, right? Okay, so he came to basically the, I don't know how he even came into the orbit of this whole thing, but he comes in with this, you know, with swagger for days, and just like, hey, you know, it's like, look, we need to get this, like, look, I want to try to, you know, I want to document this tournament for, like, for DDR and blah blah blah, right? And we're like, yeah, absolutely. Okay. You know, so he comes in, he brings his cameras in, and you know, he's got like this whole setup with like, you know, it's like production grade things. He's got like the headphones and stuff. And he's recording this tournament. And, you know, so he's doing interviews of like all the players and interviews of the players. He turned like he did interviews with the players. He did like all the it was supposed, because if this was supposed to be some like ESPN level like programming that we would have had for DDR for one of the most important tournaments in New York City history.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't know exactly what happened to it, but from what I understand. From what I understand, like, you know, and to Alan's, it's like to Alan's like defense, I guess, you know, like video and coding and stuff like back then was, I mean, it was a thing, but you know, to actually get a video on the internet back in 2001 was a big deal. Yes, it was a big deal. It took a lot of processing, took a lot of processor power, and you know, like, for not very good resolution, and you know, and all of that. But anyway, in the course of putting this thing together, from what I understand, is that Alan ran into some technical issues, and then all that footage somehow became lost.
Okay.
Yeah, like he said that. Like from here, it just gets to, you know, like just stuff that I've heard. Because I remember hitting him up. I'm like, hey, so what's up with this term? It's like, yeah, I'm working on it, right? And then all of a sudden, you know, I refuse to believe that like a repository of DDR, like, you know, like a repository, like a video, just vanished like that. Yeah. Like, but you know, because I know I think in the day, I think he recorded on like high 8 video. I think it was high 8 video, so it was analog video. It's around, right? And then I think in the digitization process, something got lost, or his computer blew up, or I don't know. But all that to say is that somehow the most important tournament in New York City history fucking vanished. And we're just sitting with this one guy who's probably, I mean, you know, it's like, and a little shortly after, he just dropped off, and he was like persona non grata, and you know, he just, like, I have no idea what the hell happened to the guy.
I heard people paid him for that footage too, like to get it on VHS or CD or whatever.
Yeah, the people in the tournament, like, you know, he was, because from all looks and appearances, I mean, he was a professional he was a professional getting this thing done. So he was, I guess, compensated for whatever time and effort and everything like that, and just to come up with just nothing.
So I don't know if it was him. Like, I don't remember the name, but I spoke to Jan. Jan is like a good resource for this stuff too, and like I know she lives in Florida, so I would love to interview her like on Zoom. Like I don't want to do any remote interviews, but I would do a remote interview for her. And I think she's the one who, either her or Dollar Bill, pointed me in the direction of somebody who supposedly had the footage. It might have been, I don't remember the guy's name, it might have been him. So I messaged the guy and I'm just like, hey, do you have this footage? I'll pay you for it. Like, how much you want for it? I don't know how much you want for it, but I'll pay you for it, and then I'll worry about doing it myself and like encoding it. And the guy was a little kind of like, I don't know. And then he was just like, I don't have it, sorry. And then just kind of ghosted me. And I was like, damn, like that was the closest that I ever got aside from those pictures I came across. And I don't know if the pictures were him or was there a photographer there independent of him?
I think there was a photographer independent of him.
Okay, so like lucky for that photographer to get all those pictures without.
Right, and it's like, and that was the thing too, because like, right, I guess like just the fact that like right, because but that was the treatment that we were getting from this guy. That's
man,
just. But it's like you know what what angered me about the whole thing was just the fact that like he was talking himself up so much about like what he could provide and what like what he could deliver. As far as like it's like as far as footage, and it wasn't just to me. It wasn't just to like it wasn't just to the arcade. It was to like the I mean, this was even before the DDRFreak like forums weren't really DDRFreak, I mean, it was around. We weren't really on there. It was all a Yahoo group, because Christine had like a Yahoo group, like for like it was like DDR foot soldiers. Like that was our. Like
I heard of that before.
That was our Yahoo group, right? And we were talking about all this back and forth, and then this guy he drops in on the group and was like, yeah, I'm gonna be doing all this video and blah blah blah, and then all of a sudden, for him to just vanish.
I refuse to also believe. I feel like with enough money, I don't have that kind of money, but I feel like somebody can persuade somebody to like pull it out of storage, and then I think Bill is good at that kind of stuff too. He has a lot of content in DDR. Like I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out. But like if we could just get the footage, that would be awesome.
Like I would love to get it, like the same thing, because it's like just from a historical standpoint, right? Because it was just, dude, like you weren't at that tournament, right? Yeah, just like it's like when you go there, it was just the energy. Like it was I've never seen anything like it before or since. Just you go in there, it's like there's just the one machine and there's hundreds of people and everybody's just
and then there's some good pictures of people who wound up like there's a couple pictures where you see Shawn in the background, you see Powell in the background. There's a Jimin I think he did a Sonic freestyle, and that a lot of people talk about that. And there's pictures of Nugget. There's a picture of him jumping over. I think that was the same picture where Jackie's focusing. Jumping over the Jackie's. The picture with Dorian, and then I think I mentioned Shawn already. I think he still is part of like a big part of the DDR community now. But Steve. There was the Hands Resistant, and then his little brothers Jeff and Steve, and then Stephanie. So I think there's a picture of one of them, either Jeff or Steve, really, really young, playing DDR. But he's like I think everybody in the DDR community knows who he is now.
Right.
Like, he's like 8-9 years old, and those two kids, like I don't know if they entered the tournament or they were just there to play, but they were both good.
They were good. They were good for their age. Yeah, absolutely. I remember seeing like little kids like the arrows just like seemed like 3 miles away from each other just from his standpoint, just like how small he was. But his legs were getting around though. He was doing it.
So there was the Broadway City tournament. I used to hear about a few more tournaments. I don't know if you could touch on all of them, but I used to hear about a Barcode tournament. I used to hear about I don't know if both of these tournaments pertain to you, but like there was a Flushing Mall tournament. And then there was Green Acres Mall tournament.
Yes.
All right. So
yes. I could speak on all those. I was in all of those.
Okay. So the Barcode tournament, apparently, I don't know exactly why, but Stefan said something about like it went down to you and Jimin, and then the first prize was like a Game Boy Advance or something like that. But I heard about this tournament like when I used to play DDR. So like, what was that tournament about?
It's like then the Barcode tournament. I mean, I wouldn't really call it it was. I mean, it wasn't a tournament in like the regular sense. It was more of a leaderboard kind of thing, right? Where so what would happen with that? People would play a certain like a certain series of songs, right? And then whoever had the highest score, right? It's like this was on the first mix machine, right? So scoring on the first mix was like exponential scoring. So basically, the more steps you had in a row, then like the higher your score just went, and it wasn't like in like later mixes where it's basically like a best of like best of 1 million or 10 million or whatever, right? It's not like that, but so your score could be like 130 million or whatever, blah blah blah, however many points, and it was all a matter of your combo. So it's like, say if you were in step 201 of your combo, you got mad points. But if you broke your combo at a certain point, if you broke it punished you for breaking a combo in the middle of a song.
Okay.
Right. So if you happen to miss the first step or the last step, that'd be like the minimal point penalty. But like if you did it like right smack in the middle, that's like all of the point penalty, and you end up losing everything. Right. So anyway, for the Barcode tournament, it was. You had to play 3 songs, whoever had the highest song. So, and the thing is that it's the first mix machine, so your options were really limited. You had to play. It's like you basically had to play. It was like, what you had to play? AM3P. You had to play Trip Machine. You had to play Paranoia. Like you had to play Paranoia 180. Those were your 8-foot songs. Like, and you couldn't get any more steps out of anything else. So you had to play those 3, and then you had to basically full combo all 3. That day at Barcode, I happened to be the only person to combo all 3.
Okay.
Right. It's like I comboed all 3, and then like Jimin was he missed like a step. Stefan missed like I think 2 or 3 steps. Right. But I was the only one who missed. Like I managed to have a perfect set, and it's like, and that held up, and then I ended up getting the Game Boy Advance, and then I ended up working some deals and stuff off to the side, and it's like, and I think Jan ended up with it, and then I think Jan ended up with it, and then it's like, and then Jimin ended up with it. So it's like Stefan. It's like, right. It changed hands a couple times, but I ended up winning it though.
So you came out on top in that tournament.
Yeah.
Like it just, I think by that time you were already established as like being the guy. Like, people just knew. Damn, Barcode, man. Yeah. They turned it into were you around Times Square? I know you moved to Nevada, but like, they changed it into like this Charmin bathroom station?
What?
So like, this is the weirdest concept, but I guess Times Square, in conjunction with Charmin, like they were trying to do a marketing campaign. So Barcode had already closed down. And so what they did is, it was like a bathroom store where you could just go in and use the bathroom, but like it was weird because when you went into Barcode, like the first floor was like this long hallway, and then there was an escalator, right? You would go in and everybody was super cheerful. They all had like Charmin shirts. And then when you got out the bathroom, they would clap and give you a round of applause as you were walking out. It was super creepy. So that's what Barcode wound up becoming.
That's what Barcode ended up being.
For a while, that's what Barcode was.
Wow.
Weird. I don't know why. I don't know why. I guess, but it was nice because this was still around the time that we were playing. So if you really needed to use the bathroom and you were going between Laser Park and Broadway City,
I guess it has a good functional purpose. I guess. That charming.
It was weird.
Wow.
That was what Barcode wound up becoming.
That's nuts.
All right. So there was this Flushing tournament that I heard about too, but I don't know the specifics of it. There was just a tournament in Flushing that was supposed to be really significant.
Yeah, there was a tournament. I mean, okay, it was significant. Like it was. I think it was Mr. Nam's like opportunity to try to he was trying to expand because Mr. Nam he had New York Dance Sports in Sunnyside. Then he got another store in Flushing Mall. And he was one of the biggest, one of the more underrated advocates for DDR in the city. And then so he just decided he wanted to put together this tournament. I think he convinced the people in the mall to basically just kind of come along with this and just bring all these kids to basically promote the mall.
Yeah.
Right. So what ended up happening was that they had like a tournament. They had a tournament, and then they gave away like gift certificates and stuff for for anything in the mall.
Yeah.
Or like as I call it, the day DDR saved Christmas, because I was like I was broke as hell. I'm like, oh damn, I got like $10. It's like last $10 went, it was like $20 for the tournament.
Mm-hmm.
Last,
So
the last $20 I had went to this tournament, and I ended up bagging third, which was good for like $100 worth of stuff.
Yeah.
So I took those gifts tickets. I'm like, all right, it's like, here you go, mom, your jewelry. There you go, get your so that was that tournament it was a little controversial because back then there weren't very cut and dry rules as to what happened if you failed a song.
Okay.
Right, because it was perfect attack. Right, it was perfect attack, but in some tournaments would give you a penalty for failing a song. Some tournaments would DQ you for it, right? But then most other tournaments it didn't matter. It was a straight perfect attack.
Yeah.
So at the time there was a song, Furuhata's theme, right? Where I did watch the interview with like 123K where he was talking about me and Furuhata's theme. But at this time, the Flushing Mall tournament, I didn't know this song for shit.
Okay.
Right. It just popped up, and it was a song where like I did the best I could on it. Mm-hmm. Right. I failed the song, but I happen to have more perfects than the other guy did.
Okay.
He didn't fail the song, but I happen to have more perfects.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So then I'm just like, okay, well, who do you give it to? Because it's a perfect attack tournament, and nobody said anything about me having to pass the song.
Yeah.
So I basically ended up winning on a technicality. And,
and
that pissed a few people off with that, but so with that I ended up clinching third.
Okay.
But that ended up setting the ground rules. Like I was like, okay, well, I wasn't gonna let Furuhata's theme embarrass me like that again.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
So then I ended up stepping up the game.
So it was a fifth mix tournament.
It was fifth mix, yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Nice. So who won? Do you know who won first?
I do not remember.
Okay.
I do not remember.
I've heard this tournament mentioned more than once. I think Jan mentioned it.
Yep.
But I used to hear it spoken about like when I played.
Yeah, it's like for the techs, the Flushing Mall, it was. It's like for the tech guys, it was we had like our own battles, but then like JDS, like the rest of JDS, they were all freestylers, and it was the group over Flushing. Yeah, it was hostile. It was really hostile over there, like towards anybody who just wasn't from like Flushing or anywhere around Queens.
Wow.
And I remember I heard stories about like Dorian and Brina, they were getting that people just saying like really mean things about them and like how they're playing, and Jan would talked all this shit. Like somebody apparently spit at Dorian.
Oh, during the tournament, just like in general.
I think it was during no, it wasn't during the set. It was like I think he was about ready to walk up to the pads and something and somebody just it was just
damn.
Yeah, it was like I didn't think that part of Queens even got live like that, but that was that was what was going on over there.
Wow. Yeah, that mall, I don't remember when they demolished it, but that was an interesting trip to go play DDR, because when I would go, I think the tournament that like the DDR machine on that tournament, I remember where it was kind of like an open area kind of space, right?
Yep.
And then later on, Mr. Nam wound up renting like a actual store in that mall when Extreme came out, like later on, I think. But they had a Techno Motion in that mall. Have you ever played Techno Motion before?
No.
I don't know why this game didn't go popular, but like it's a 9-panel dancing game.
Okay.
So it's like Pump It Up and DDR put together.
Oh shit. Okay.
And so that was the first time I played Techno Motion, and me and my cousin would go out there to play DDR. We tried out Techno Motion. But it was an interesting vibe, because you take the 7 to the last stop, and then you walk down. Like you have to kind of know. You
have to know where you were going. Yeah.
Yeah. It wasn't just something that you can kind of spot like walking around Flushing.
Right. Yeah.
So it was an interesting place to play DDR. Not the most popular place, but like.
It's like I remember their original location though on what was it, on 41st? It was like 41st and Queens Boulevard.
The Sunny Side location?
Yeah. No, it was funny because I remember I'm on the 7. Right? Where was I go? Like I was going home because like living in my part of Queens. Like I had a few options as to how to get home. Today I was gonna Roosevelt Avenue to the E kind of thing on the 7. So then I'm on the 7, and then all of a sudden I'm just like and like I'm looking over like the elevated train, and then Nam had like he had the DDR logo. Like he had the DDR logo like on the awning of the building. So like this is when I'm looking over, was like, and I just see DDR. I'm like, oh shit! It's like, I'm like, okay, like, and I'm like, oh, I'm getting off. This is my stop. I got to get off. I got to find out what's going on about the spot. And that's how I even discovered like NAM or NYDS, which was wild.
NYDS was cool. I went to that spot once, and then they moved to the Woodside location. And I went there, and there were like so many people playing, but he had like 4 machines lined up, and then he had a bump it up machine, and it was just like, it was just the DDR arcade. It was like that was his focus. You're right, like
that's like that's all he did, and then he had like just random shit for sale, like little, like little like Beanie Baby kind of things,
he really did a lot he did do a lot for DDR, man.
It's like, is he even still around?
I don't think so. Yeah. I mean, he's kind of up there in age when we played, and that was like 20 years ago.
Yeah,
so like,
right.
But the Woodside spot too, like it was kind of like a Hello Kitty Sanrio / Beanie Baby / just random stuff.
God, that tournament was such a mess. It was such a mess.
This is the one with the broken pad.
Yeah. Okay. So it was the tournament, like it had a broken pad, but then this was also an opportunity where it's like, okay, so then me and Jimin and I think Shawn was there too. Okay. Right. And so like all the best of the city, right, ended up basically it was a collision course with the best of Long Island.
Was this 3rd mix or 5th mix?
This was 5th. Okay. This was 5th, right? And so and we ended up meeting together, and then like the whole like the Dragon Ball people, right? Well, Goku was like the main guy. It's like, and he was the guy, like their main tech guy, who I ended up having to face. Okay. Right. So I don't want to say the rest of them didn't matter, but they didn't. You know what I mean? Like I didn't. They weren't people I had to play against, so I didn't really focus my energy. But that was what ended up happening with and just the collision course over at Green Acres. But then I mean that tournament should never have happened, because how do you play a DDR tournament on a one pad's good and the other pad's not good, right? So what ended up happening against my match with Goku, right, was that it's like he goes and springs up on the good pad, right? It's like he springs up on the good pad, and then and then as we're trying to pick songs, he's like trying to get into my head, like as far as it's like as far as what I'm going to pick. I'm like, if my pad's fucked up, it doesn's matter. It's like it doesn't matter what I pick. It doesn't matter. It's like so I'm just figuring, okay, this is this whole this whatever is going on here. I mean, I'm going to lose, and it's not going to be my fault. And sure enough, that's what ended up happening. And then I don't know, that whole tournament just turns up to, and like at the end of it, a tournament happened, but it was more towards the end of it, like everybody just wanted to beat each other up. Yeah. It's like it just got like tempers were kind of getting flared to that point.
Like that guy was always he was okay with being like the villain, but he was like a dick. Yeah, that's the only other way that I could put it. I don't know when he stopped playing DDR, but like he almost had a fight with Stefan. He would go. They had their own forums. I forgot what Long Island. They had their own little website. Yeah,
I remember. I remember the one. Like I forget the name of the site, but there was some pretty wild shit on there.
So it was just they would that group was just okay with being it's stereotypical movie jockish kind of I'm the best in DDR even though you're not. The way that tournament was always described to me was that you were supposed to win. It looked like you would have won if the pad wasn't broken. Yep. And he just took advantage of that.
Yep. That's pretty much it. That's what I remember too.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm like. All right. Well, It's like, I mean, it was a good experience, at least just being the faces of these other people.
Yeah.
It's like, but I'll just say this. Notice that soon after that tournament, they could have made, they could have jumped the Long Island Railroad. They could have came out to Broadway City. Mm-hmm. Nobody did, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah, because they knew.
Yeah.
They knew.
Yeah.
That wasn't gonna happen.
Okay. Are there any other tournaments that happened around this time that I'm forgetting?
It's like, well, okay, so the only tournament that my first tournament, right? My first tournament was there was a tournament that was held. Christine actually put it together. Mm-hmm. All right, it was at NYDS.
Okay.
This was still in Sunnyside, and this was around September, August or September of 2000. Right, and we came together. We played this tournament, and there was a freestyle division, there was a tech division, mm-hmm. right? And I ended up winning that one.
Okay.
It's and that's when I actually I got to meet Nugget and Pierre and a couple other Dollar Bill and a few of those other people. We're all just kind of together, just playing, and that was actually a pretty important one.
Wow, I never heard of this. This is the one. This is the old NYDS.
Yeah, it was the old NYDS. There's the one on Queens Boulevard, and I think the winner. I got a CD player.
Nice.
Yeah, I got a CD player. Chris actually paid for that out of her own pocket. Just to to make to try to have good prizes and stuff for people. Mm-hmm. And it's it was just a wild time for DDR in the day. Even and I told the story, I've told the story for a few times, just from a tech standpoint, we were good, but we didn't have to be as good as they are now. Because it's the way that the tournament was, it was Chris picked a song, right, and that was the qualifier. Right, so everybody would do the song, and then whatever your score was, and then you were a seed, and then you went into a bracket, and we did all of that. And so, but as far as the step patterns and stuff goes, it was we ended up Pierre and I ended up in the final, mm-hmm. right? It's so we ended up playing in the Navy,
okay, on
SSR. Neither of us knew how to do that one. Right, the gallops were a bit much back then, right? So then, we figure, okay, I ended up beating him on score, but then he was just come on, can we just do another song? Because this is kind of bullshit. I'm all right. I'm gonna put my tournament life on the line. I'm gonna agree with this kid, because I'm watching two guys fumble through a song, I just fumbled less. I didn't want to win that way. So he was all right, let's do. It's well, how about this? And then Wonderland came up. Okay. He was just you want to do Wonderland? I'm okay, because I knew that song. I'll give you an idea of just how tech play was back in 2000. Mm-hmm. Okay, Wonderland. It's how many steps is this song? It's probably
two, three something.
Yeah, two, three something. Okay, how many grades do you think I would have gotten to win that thing?
Back in third mix, 20 to 40 grades would have been considered okay, I would assume.
Right. Yeah. It's and that was the thing. He ended up with 50. I ended up with 25, and I ended up winning with 25 grades. There isn't a tournament in this land that you could even qualify for with a score like that. Mm. Now, there's if there was a qualifying bracket, you would not make the bracket. Yeah. There's no way. No, with 25, that's way too many. Mm-hmm. Even 3 or 4 would probably be too many now. Yeah, but that was kind of how the level was, and mm-hmm. but no, that just actually just kind of just and some of the better tech players actually being around each other for the first time, starting to realize what they knew, what they didn't know. We're kind of talking shop and taking notes and this, that, because I learned some stuff from Pierre, and Pierre learned a couple things from me, and then he took his thing up to Connecticut and got better. I went back to the city, I got better. Yeah. So,
yeah, the I don't know if breadth is the right word, but the fact that somebody from Connecticut is coming over to play, and just the vastness comparatively always makes things more significant. Mm-hmm. And I think that for this tournament that you're talking about, that's probably also important. And I say, from me specifically in relation to you, Stefan, and Deshaun, I feel part of my success in DDR was luck, because I started playing by the time I stopped playing, it was right before YouTube.
Yep.
So any media, like that 2000 to 2004 time period, like technology was moving so quickly.
Yeah, it was.
Like if you had a digital camera, your parents may as well have been rich, you know, like walking around with a digital camera, you know? And so like people were able to get media of me because of the way technology moved. Some of it was because of my skill level, but like a lot of it was like, I just so happened to play at a time period where DDR was kind of already somewhat established.
You played at the right level at the right time.
The right time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And like, and I always say like, I wish that there was more media for like you and Deshawn and Stefan, because like you guys did a lot of cool stuff. But like even like when you were talking about the websites and the internet, you had to know somebody who had bandwidth to like store a file for other people to download. There was no streaming.
Right, exactly. Yep.
And so like for me, like I stopped playing and YouTube came out maybe later that year or like the next year. I was lucky, and like I wish that like there was a way that you guys were able to store that kind of media.
But you know what though? In a way though, I'm actually glad that technology didn't allow for that, because what ended up happening, you know, for a long time, and I remember like last week, Stefan and I were talking about this like over drinks, like because like the lack of technology, right, made way for a whole lot of folklore about me and what I can do and what I can, you know, because like, and I was like watching some of the interviews and like some of the people like where Maverick's talking about me or Deshawn's talking about me. I'm just like, and since there's no video for it, it's like it's just all anecdotal evidence about like, and so I don't know, sometimes somewhere over the line like the stories about me, like I'm just hearing some stuff like it's just wild shit. Like it'll be like, you know, it's like, oh yeah, you heard this guy, like he had like a 300-pound like bouncer like on his back and he just did like 1,000 combo. Or it's like, oh yeah, you know what, this guy, he's like, he went and smoked like a pack of cigarettes and then just went and ran a marathon and came in and just full comboed something. You know, like people just coming up with some shit. I mean, some of that's true. Like I was a smoker back then, which you know, which probably should have hindered my performance a lot more than it did. But you know, so a lot of the stories that I ended up hearing about me were just like everybody just, I don't know, just taking,
just out there,
just taking whatever I've actually done for real, and I mean, it's like, who am I? I'm not correcting nobody. Like, I'm like, fuck that. Like, it's like, okay, you think I'm this mythical beast? Like, I'm gonna let that speak. I'm not gonna say nothing. You know
what? So like one of the things that I used to hear, and I don't know if this is true or not, but like it was like dead end when dead end was like ridiculously difficult, and that you would play dead end where your left foot would be on the left arrow, and then your right foot would take care of all three other arrows.
Most of it, yeah.
You were able to full combo stuff like that.
I could full combo stuff like that, yeah.
That's what D was.
It's like, and it was like sometimes it would be dead end sometimes, but you know, like Afro Nova, like you can't really do that like on Maniac heavy like that, but you know, so like some of the harder songs, like I would have my left foot would be on the left pad and then my right foot cover everything else, and it got to the point like where they made my right leg could move. Like I don't know how or why it could just move. Like I mean, it wouldn't be good for a string of perfects, but it wouldn't break a combo. Yeah. Right, which at the time was good enough.
That was good enough.
You know,
right?
And you know, it's like, and people would actually watch me play. And it's like, and you know, and there are other songs like Rhythm and Police. I would actually like RFO, and everybody's just looking at me like,
oh man,
just.
That's even with the gallops.
Well, the gallops I do the gallops regular, but like all the regular parts like between the gallops, like and you know, and people would just look at this. Like, it's like, but how are you guys like? I'm like, and I don't know. That was just the way I played.
You just felt comfortable.
It's like that was just the way I played, and you know, at one point, I mean, the game eventually got hard enough to the point where I couldn't play that way consistently put up high scores. But then you know, I mean, God, it was fun to watch though. It was fun to do. So it was like, hey, watch this.
Yeah.
So,
all right. So like, we didn't get, you saying second mix was part of third mix, and we didn't get fourth mix in New York City at all.
Yeah, we didn't get that at all.
No. And then most of the fourth mix stuff wound up on fifth mix. And the more I play as an adult, like whether I'm playing or I'm working and I have DDR music in the background, or if I'm playing when I used to play Stepmania, I feel like Fourth Mix had the best soundtrack out of them.
Oh no, the Fourth Mix soundtrack was
it was
banging.
just so many good songs.
It was really good. It was really good.
Like, oh man, like
that was the other thing. Like when I won that tournament, like I got the CD player and I also got I actually had like the Fourth Mix soundtrack.
Oh nice.
Yeah,
nice.
That Fourth Mix soundtrack. Yeah.
So Fifth Mix comes along. What were your initial thoughts on Fifth Mix when it came out?
My initial thoughts, I like the marathon song feature. I like that.
Oh, the 2-for-1s.
Yeah, like the 2-for-1s. Like I like that. I did not like the fact that like the perfect window on the Fifth Mix was really hard. You know, like it was really narrow, and it was a lot harder to. I mean, I was grateful for it towards the end because it actually made us all better players. The fact that they like had that short perfect window. But then there was that, and then also there was the scoreboard.
Yeah.
Right, it was the scoreboard, like in the great Fifth Mix score war, which it was. You know, it's like, I mean, like it was me, Shawn, and Jimin just back and forth.
Do you remember your set for that score setup? Like everybody had like a set.
Everybody had their go-to set. My set was, God, what did I do? Like it was Dead End. Yeah, it was definitely Dead End. It was Dead End, Rhythm and Police, and then it was either like I would either do For Hottest Theme or Matsuri Japan, depending on how I was feeling. But yeah, it's like, but no, for Hottest Theme, you know, like Dead End and Rhythm and Police, that was like my go-to set.
I think I used to see a lot of people go for No Limit as well. Afro Number Primeval was also part of some people's sets.
Yep.
But yeah, for Hottest Theme, Rhythm and Police, Japan. I think it was just like anything that was over 400 steps that you were like, I'll probably, because if you got like you're right, like if you got a miss somewhere, I guess in the middle of the song you're saying, it would like mess up your score. So like you would just want 3 songs that had over 400 steps that you would do as good as possible on.
Right.
And that's one of my favorite DDR memories. Is I was just in Broadway City in the middle of the week one time, and Dorian used one of his credits and just picked Oops, I Did It Again, and we all just shared the song. We would like take like a measure and do a dance for no reason.
Dorian would do some stuff like that all the time too. Like, or he'll put a song on Little. He'll put a song on Little, knowing that there's no steps, and he's just bugging out. I'm like, dog, this is $2 a game. That's how you spend your money.
Yeah.
But that's just what he did, though. You know.
What else did you like about Fifth Mix?
What else did I like about Fifth Mix? I mean, the songs were like, the songs were, they were fun, they were entertaining, and like I said, the scoring, and that was really it. That was really it. Like, I mean, you probably played Fifth Mix more than I was at one point, but.
One thing that I liked about Fifth Mix was because it has such a vast array of songs compared to the previous mixes, it did open up a lot of doors for freestyle. So like I used to, when I would come to Broadway City, I would see a lot of like that group, Nate, Nat, Dre, Darwin. Like you were cool with those guys.
Yeah, I was cool with them. Yeah.
They like Dre especially. It looked like he just kind of he made it look fun to play DDR.
Yeah, no, Dre was one of the most underrated, underlooked players, I think, in especially in the freestyle, like in the freestyle arena, because his whole thing was that he would go do some moves, he'd go have fun, and then he'd go to a tournament like 3 weeks later and see some other kid doing the same shit he was doing.
Yeah.
Which but I guess that's one of the downsides to being like a pioneer like that. But then that happened to Dre so much that he eventually he just decided he wasn't gonna play anymore.
I heard of this in like a lot of the freestyles that I used to know. Like I didn't know that it would actually come from Dre, like Flashdance, for example. Like for Third Mix. Like I've seen people do that before I saw him do that.
Oh yeah, no, that was all Dre. And Dre was tight too. Like and understandably, because he's working on his own thing, and people just come in and get a camera in their face. Oh yeah, look at me, look what I'm doing.
Yeah, Stefan mentioned this in his interview too, but a lot of his stuff came from those guys, and they all just would have fun. Like they would take this. I remember seeing Dre take his sneaker off and put it on the DDR machine, and then just hype his sneaker up for no reason. And like, Dorian was like that too. He was like really smooth with it.
Yep.
Like those guys are definitely core Broadway city people who play DDR. What would you say is like the thing that you're most proud of in terms of like score accomplishments when it comes to DDR?
Wow. The most. I mean, probably like the first time. Like the first time I combo dead end. The first time, because what ended up happening was that anybody in Broadway City may have heard 410 one time. I
don't think I ever heard that before. Okay.
Yeah, it's like I go up to the table 410 one time because that's 410 steps of the game. That's what I want is either 410 combo or I fucked up. Yeah. and I got to play it again. You know what I mean? But then I think the first time I actually hit that, the first time, and it's and I think Stefan may have been around for that or whatever, and then it's just it's getting really fired up and or if the song's not going my way and I'm just getting all mad and pushing machines around and almost getting thrown out of the place.
People did mention that you had a bit of a temper.
Yeah, I was a little spicy. But it's if things that go, if things didn't go too well for me, on a set like that, I'd get a little upset. Player interference didn't really happen too much. Not too much. Shadowing. I remember you were talking about shadow. I know it's a big Chinatown fair thing, but a couple people would do that. People would try to do that at Broadway City. I had a strict no shadowing thing. Because I never really understood the point of that anyway. Because to shadow a song, it's you're getting no feedback on the player 2 side on what's going on the player 1 side. Yeah. It's so you may think you have the moves right. There's no way to know. Because you don't have a score, you have no arrows, right? So you can shadow for years and years and theoretically not get any better. Yeah. Because you have no way to know. It's the only way you're gonna do it. You need to cough up your $2 and play your own damn game. Yeah. Yep. It's and if anything, you're just gonna get in my way, and then I'm gonna have a problem. Because I'm trying to get my 410. So.
So. We spoke about Fifth Mix, and around the time that I came onto the scene, it had been a while before I actually met you in person. I heard about you for a long time, and I was friends with Stefan. I think this was before DDPD, and we didn't mention this. We should mention this before we talk. I wanted to ask you. I was going to ask you about the challenge that Stefan made to you, but maybe before we mention that, we should briefly touch on DDRFreak, because it was. At least for by the time Fifth Mix came around, DDRFreak was it was kind of the glue for New York City DDR.
It was. That's how we all kept, we all kept in touch. And, it wasn't even just us. It's even East Coast and West Coast, or, people in the South or the Midwest. That's, we actually had a spot, a unified spot where we could all,
But the funny thing was, it was broken up by regions, but it was run by a person from California. Yeah. So the person in California gave NorCal and SoCal their own forum spots. Yep. And then we had a Northeast. There was a Mid-Atlantic forum. There was a Northeast forum, but New York was so wild. We
had our own. We had our own. Yeah. It's Northeast. No, that's Boston and shit. We're talking New York. That was our own spot. Yeah, and Guana Girl. I remember she was the.
Oh yes.
Yeah, she was the admin. But okay, so to go back to well, I guess we'll talk about you want to talk about the challenge first? You want to talk about
because you mentioned there's a lot of things you mentioned related to DDRFreak, and the mods who were officially people who would make sure things were well.
You would talk about I know where this is going.
So they would make sure things went well. If people got out of hand, they would put temporary bans. They would close threads. They just kind of worked with the mods, and then the administrators would work with the people who ran the site to make sure everything was all right. Yes. But in New York, it was just like we had our own understandings of things.
It's like, and yeah, the New York DDRFreak forum ran a different kind of way. I mean, technically, okay, you had Iguana Girl and Jim the Fly. They were the technical mods, right? They were the technical mods. I remember you coined the term some years ago, like like hell mod. Right, where it's like so, but then we had the hell mods because it was me and it was Jimin, and like it was me and Jimin mostly. Like Shawn would pipe in every now and then, but it was mostly just me and Jimin. Like, and we were the take no shit. Like look, you're gonna come in here, you're gonna act a certain kind of way on these forums, and if you don't, you're gonna get some smoke from us, and it's like and it was a quiet understanding, and like, and Jim is like a Jim the Fly and Iguana Girl for the most part just let us, we couldn't get too out of hand, we couldn't flame too hard or too crazy, but they let us just try to handle all this stuff. But yeah, it's like if you came up here, you're making some kind of like wild like accusations about another player, or if you're hyping up your like your abilities more than we already know that it is, we will call you out. It's like we'll call you out on that, and you'd be like, and
everybody just kind of accepted that. Like if basically like my cousin, her nickname was Babylon. She was also kind of at home.
Gina, yes.
But if Shawn said to shut the fuck up, everybody just shut the fuck up. Like if Jimin was like, this is not how this went, or you're full of shit, then you were full of shit. And Deshaun wound up actually becoming a mod, like an actual mod later on. But like for the most part, the mods would just let you guys do your thing. Like, and then that's how the New York forums.
It's like right. We had like the the enforcers, the irregulators. That was like what we did. It was good times. Good times. I miss that. Just be able to just talk my shit.
That's basically what it was. But like around this time, like this was like around the 5th mix time, and I don't think DDPD was like, I wasn't in DDPD yet, I don't think. So Stefan issues this challenge to you on DDRFreak.
Okay, yeah. So Stefan, all right. So we got to go back. We got to go back a couple steps to there were 2 other moments. There was one moment, right? Okay, Stefan was an up and coming player. He wanted to, he was trying to be the best of the best, right? And then at the same time, but then there was me and Jimin and like and Shawn. We were kind of like, I don't want to say in his way, but we were in his way, right? And so he was actually trying to get a little better, right? So then at the time, like then there was the Barcode tournament, right, where Stefan came up short, right? And so then me and Jimin gave Stefan shit about coming up short because that's just what we did, It's like, and then there was another time where we were playing at Broadway City where where Stefan was like, he was in the middle of playing a song. Right, it's like, yes, I did pretty good. It's like I did good. I think I never think he played End of the Century. He played End of the Century, right? It's like, and he like what I call like he Chinatowned it, right? What I call Chinatown like was when somebody had like more greats than perfects, So it's like, so he looks at the so he's at the song. He's like, and I'm like, yo, on this Chinatown shit, what's up with the? It's like, I mean, good job on passing, but what's up with these? It's like, and I was clowning him. It's like I was clowning Stefan, and at some point, it's like Stefan was just like, he's like, he takes his licks like a man. He's like, okay. All right, and quietly he quietly gets a little better at the game and stuff like that. To which I go on, and then DDRFreak, I'll never forget it. Like I see DDRFreak, and it just like the subject, it just says, I issue a challenge to ... And I'm looking at the screen, I'm like, I already knew. I already knew. I didn't even have to open it. I was like, shit. All right, the chickens have come to roost. Here we go. So then, so like I click it, and then sure enough, it's like, I was like, oh, I want to issue a challenge to Shawn, because when people look up in DDR, I want to be, so I'll go play. So and we end up doing that, and and it was wild because I don't really like. I just thinking about it recently, like how important that matchup was, on a whole lot of levels for DDR, and like it's like just not just New York City DDR, like the game DDR, right? It was this fact that like I remember we had because it was a 3-song set, It's like, and I remember seeing you around, right? And I know you were one of the straight shooters of DDR. It's like, and ironically enough, you were not playing for arrows back then.
Not playing.
It's like, oh no, we're gonna touch back on that in a minute, right? But he was like not playing for arrows. I mean, he was like straight shooter, good dude. I'm like, all right, cool. You know what? It's like he looks like a guy like I think I just like it's like let's get some random guy, and it's like you just pick these, it's like, so
the third song.
Right, and so it was basically I picked a song, Stefan picked a song, right, and it's like mine, it's like I said, I think mine had to have been Ferrata's theme, because that would have been something I would have picked in the tournament. It was like, I forget what his was, and then I remember the third song, Leading Cyber.
Yeah.
It's like, and it was like Leading Cyber coming up, and that was a song I wasn't really too familiar with, and apparently Stefan was very familiar with. Right, and it just kind of just changed the course of everything, and it was like, and that was a song where like I was struggling, and towards the end of the set, like I ended up conceding the match, right. And like I didn't even finish the whole game. I just turned to him, so like I should be saying, "Hey, good match," and we hugged it out, and it's like, and then that was that. But I mean, what ended up happening there was just like, that unleashed the beast. Like, so now Stefan's like, oh, now he beat me, and now he's just like he was out for blood. Like, all right, who's next? Who's next? I'll come after those other people. But then at the same time, and then when DDPD comes up, and then that's when you started taking the game more seriously. That was pretty much that challenge was you started taking the game more seriously, and then you became one of the best in the world.
Yeah,
and
you and Stefan, like I just wanted to see two people play the hardest song in the game, like being like asking around, like, what's the hardest song in the game, Leading Cyber, and I just I remember I like scrolled where I already knew what I was gonna pick. I didn't know that you didn't know it. I didn't know who was better at it. Like I had no. Me and Stefan wound up becoming really close later on, but back then I just knew Stefan. Like me and my cousin would go to play DDR, and it was like the guy with the box braids, like spinning,
Yep.
But I was just like, Leading Cyber. I for all I knew, both of y'all might have failed this song, but I was just like, I want to see them play Leading Cyber.
See what happens. Yeah. And it's crazy because like for that tournament set, I mean there were like about maybe 100 songs in the game. Like you could have picked 91 of those for the third song. I beat Stefan at that time.
Yeah.
It's like 91 of them I beat him. It's like, and it's like, and then Leading Cyber and a few others he beats me.
Yeah.
And it was like the whole luck of the draw. But then at the same time, it was inevitable. It was inevitable because because the game started getting harder. And then like my like the RFO thing. I mean, it was more of a parlor trick than like something to actually win tournaments at that point. So I mean, like my game was starting to decline, and it was getting a little older, and and I started getting like it's like ended up like learning how to play blackjack and stuff like that. So I ended up going to Atlantic City all the time. That was like that was like the kind of gaming I was more into then. But just watching Stefan just like coming up, and he was just hungry too, like and so it's like even if that challenge went differently, I mean, but it had to go the way that it went. It had to go the way that it went, because then it put us all where we ended up.
Yeah, definitely. I remember just being memorable because your reputation was so big, and I guess that's just kind of how Steph, like in the interview, Stefan said he did it out of respect for you. He wanted it in that setting, and it set the stage for things to happen the way that they did, because Stefan and Shawn, from my perception anyway, as an up and comer, they kind of orbited each other. They never really got to play each other.
They really didn't.
They played each other in the last Broadway City tournament, but Shawn had very well retired by then.
Yep.
So it's kind of weird how, actually, this is the first time I'm thinking about it. Like, you had already kind of established your legacy in DDR, because I didn't even know about that NYDS tournament. So like, you won that NYDS tournament, you won the Barcode tournament, and everybody kind of knew who you were by then. And then by the time you played Stefan, it was already kind of a done deal. It's overlap. You weren't at your peak anymore.
No, I wasn't. It's like I wasn't. Everybody knew that. But then also, and like I said, and Stefan, he was, and he's always come from a place of like just like of just like professionalism and respect for for the game, and like the old heads and all the people coming up, and he was just like and because I do remember he just like forms like, look, I'm gonna need to do this because if I'm trying to like, and I think even I know he posted the challenge online, right? But then I think either like shortly before, I think it wasn't shortly before, it was like shortly after, like we actually had a conversation right before we played. It's like, look, I need to try to basically just, I guess, trying to like get my blessing for the whole thing. It's like, absolutely, man.
Yeah.
It's like because it was gonna have to be that way because as he was saying, because otherwise he could just say like he couldn't just say he was the best.
Right.
It's like he had to beat somebody.
Yeah.
It's like, I was that somebody. And
him beating you was like kind of overlap, and then wait, have you and Deshawn ever crossed paths in a tournament setting before?
Not really.
Okay.
Not really. I mean, it's funny because Deshawn and I we played together a lot.
Okay.
It was like we played together a lot, but never competed against each other a lot.
Interesting. Okay.
It's like not that we didn't, but there was no real. Yeah, and I mean our styles were just really different too. It's like like our styles, like our general demeanors. It's like like Deshawn's a lot more of like like a lot more subdued and laid back, and I was a lot more like with that whole manic energy and and then I would be more about like songs like Steady Streams, where he's he was like a specialist at like all the offbeat stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, and so like all that, like the super technical of like the technical of the technical, right? Which ironically I actually stayed away from. He actually leaned into him, right? So even on a given set, I'm like, you're not gonna see me playing like Cat Eye. Right. Or some super like obscure like song with some like really offbeat like pattern, but that's just what he did. So like I would never, he wouldn't play like Four Hottest Theme with me because that wasn't really his style of song. And I wouldn't play anything like that was his style of song. So yeah, that's an interesting way that it overlapped because Stefan challenging you really just kind of catapulted him, but it was really Deshawn's era after you. Like after you, it was really Deshawn like. He was just the way that people used to talk about you as being like basically untouchable. That's how Deshawn was spoken about. Right. Stefan was still within arm's reach for anybody. Like we didn't really mention him, but like for anybody like Big Matt or Jeff, Sarcastic Mofo. Yeah.
Like they could still touch Stefan. Like they could still get Stefan if they really wanted to, and he may have lost a couple of tournaments to them. I don't know. But Deshawn was basically at the level that people spoke about you after you. Like he was just like nobody's really gonna beat him. After he retired after a 7th mixed tournament in New Jersey, and then it was Stefan. Stefan had to move, which he spoke about in his interview. But like I played Stefan, but like he said kind of what you said about you and him challenging each other, like him challenging you. Like when I played him, it was after he kind of stopped playing. So. It was just kind of a weird overlap, or not an overlap, but just like a missed ships passing in the night. I guess,
Yeah.
So, out of you playing from 2000 to like around 2002, 2003, if you had to pick something that was most memorable or your favorite memory, this is really something that I wish I asked everybody, and I forgot to ask people. But like, what's your favorite memory or favorite moment of playing DDR during that time?
Got my favorite moment, and aside from the Broadway City tournament,
it doesn't even have to be competitive. It could have just been like a random thing, like a get together, or it could be competitive. Like,
it's like, for me, they'd have to be competitive because that was really that's really where the game lied with me. Like, because after one day. Most fun was when we played like I called it D3R. The Drunk Dance Revolution. Okay. Right. So yeah, it was me. I remember it was me. It was Jan. I think Brina was there too. Dorian was there. We had because we were all of age, so we'd go and play. We'd play a few games, and then we'd go out and go get drinks. Yeah. And then after a few drinks, I just decided that I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go and I want to sit there and I want to go play. I'm gonna play DDR drunk, and I'm sitting there on the pads, and I remember full combo and dead end. Drunk. Yeah. I'm sitting on the patch and I'm like, what is this? This is bullshit. I need more to drink. because this is too easy for me. This shouldn't be so easy. What the hell? You know, and it's like, I remember that was a part of it where, you know, it's like Jan just sitting there shaking her head. It's like, what the hell's wrong with this dude? Yeah. But, yeah, that was a lot of fun. What was yours though, man?
I have one more video to make after I'm done with my series where I just talk in like by myself, and I was gonna mention it in this video. There was just this one time, I don't know, you may have been there. It was during Fifth Mix. Everybody just decided to meet up at an arcade called, I believe it was called Fun World, Fun Zone, in Fordham. You remember this arcade? It was an arcade.
I've heard of it. I've never been.
Okay, so like it was in a tournament. People would just like meet up at Fun World, and everybody, like almost everybody from the DDR community showed up to this, and we all just showed up. There were 2 DDR machines in this place, one on the first floor and one on the second floor, if I remember correctly. It was just like 30, 40 people at like a random Friday night. Just showed up at Fun World. So like everybody from Queens, everybody from Broadway City.
I wish I was there.
Chinatown Fair, and then I feel like at this time Staten Island had there were 2 people from Staten Island that used to come a lot. They dated each other. It was Darrow and Jen. Like I think they were there. It was just so many people for no reason other than to play DDR and hang out. And it was that, to me, that's one of my favorite moments because it was before a time of competitiveness. I'm sure like at this time this was Jimin, Sarcastic Mofo, Big Matt, Stefan, and Deshaun's time.
Right. Yeah. I remember they were like the lead pack at that point.
So maybe they were trying to get high scores, but it was just, that was it. Like it was just a random meetup, and to me, those were some of the best times. There was also one we did that Stefan reminded me of called DDR Con, where we all showed up at Broadway City just to play DDR, not even a tournament. And those were the times where, while I'm proud of a lot of the accomplishments I did, like when I was heavily into competition during the extreme period, some of the best times was during the 5th mix and 7th mix period for me. Yeah. Just like, and especially at Broadway City, you know? If you had to pick 3 songs that describe the 3rd mix, like if you were just like, you wanted to give somebody the essence of 3rd mix, what 3 songs would they be?
3 songs. Okay, it's like 3rd mix, I would probably say...
I'll give you an example.
So okay, well, to encapsulate the mix as a mix musically,
like just the feeling, the vibe.
It's like the vibe. I would probably have to say "Butterfly" by Smile DK.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, "Dynamite Rave" by Naoki, and then I'd probably have to say "Wonderland."
Okay.
Yeah.
What about 5th mix?
Songs for 5th mix. Okay, Hero, Happy Grandale mix.
Yes.
Hero, Happy Grandale mix. Yes, absolutely. Then Hot Limit.
Oh, okay, interesting. Yeah.
You know, like Hot Limit, and then what's the other? I'd say another one. I'd probably say. God, yeah, no. Well, no. For Hottest Thing, that was actually 4th mix plus.
No, but like we can include. Hero was originally on 4th mix as well.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah, but like that's fine. Yeah.
Okay.
So like the 5th mix, I can't really say 3rd mix. I can't because like I just don't have enough stock in like playing 3rd mix. But for 5th mix, I always say for me it was In the Heat of the Night. Okay. Which was also originally on 4th, but like it was just played so much on 5th. And then it was the song called Moving On that was on 5th mix, and Hero. Okay. Because that just.
Oh, and I'd have to say Insertion too. Insertion's like another good 5th mix one.
That was a good 5th mix one. I didn't bring it up with Stefan, but like, do you remember Andre and Warstech, the Techs at Broadway City? Yep. They would make us play Insertion, and to them, they were obsessed with, like, I mentioned this in a couple of my videos, but to them, it was like the hardest song ever. Right. And both of them would refer to the end of Insertion where it's kind of like Gallop. Yep. They would refer to it as Hell. And they would just be like, they would ask you after you got off the pad. They would do this with Jimin originally because they were upset. Like, they just thought he was so good. He was. And they would ask him about, like, they'd be like, so when you get to Hell, how do you turn when you get to the first part of Hell? And when you get to, like, they would just refer to it as Hell. And like, But Insertion was also a really good song.
Yeah, Andre and Wojtek, like I miss those guys. Like they were really cool dudes, and like and I mean, God bless them. Like they wanted to be so much better at the game than they were.
Yeah,
they really wanted to get it, and they couldn't. You know, like not. I mean, they weren't scrubs by any stretch, but but they weren't like. They weren't great players, but you could tell they wanted to be.
They were quintessential DDR fans.
Yeah,
like
right. Yes, yeah. They're big fans of the game.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that wraps up most of my questions. But like, I do want to just like what I do in all my videos. I like giving people their props, and I think you already know. Like that's one of the reasons why I interviewed you. But like a lot of people did look up to you, and like to you, DDR may have been, I think it was more than a video game because you put a lot of time into it, but I think that your effort in DDR meant a lot more to people than you may have realized.
I did too, and it's very humbling just to kind of see, and hear people just talking all these stories about me from, me playing a video game almost 25 years ago. It's wild.
Stefan, I don't know if he said it in an interview or he said it afterwards, but he said like, in terms of DDR, you were kind of a father figure to him, and like, I think that is really telling to a lot of us who play DDR. But like, even if you were good at DDR, but you were an asshole, like we wouldn't even really keep in touch, like a lot of us. But like a lot of like we always have nothing but good things to say about you, even after DDR. And that's on some New York shit. It's not even like you're like a nice guy. Not that you're a bad guy, but like you're just a real dude. Right. So like I think a lot of us appreciate that. But even Jimin, like when Jimin would talk about like how good you were, like he would always give you your props. So I definitely want to give you your props and just say like,
I'm great. Then I can't believe like how far you've come, even like just as a person in general, but like as a player from just like the days of a challenge to run it up to just crazy heights and everything like that. And,
I mean, I appreciate that, but a lot of that was because of you, and a lot of that like it seemed like. That's the thing also, like I want to interview Dorian. Like I want to try to interview Dorian. He's probably somebody else where I would concede to doing it on a Zoom interview, but it seems like a lot of the stuff that you Dorian, even Dre for freestyle, but like you for tech, like that stuff really paved the way for a lot of us, and like I appreciate that. So thanks for coming and talking with me, and like
very welcome. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, man. So like for anybody who's watching, just stay tuned. There'll be more interviews, and if you like this, or if you remember any of the stuff that me and Shawn were talking about, like go in the comment section and hit us up with information. I'm sure that there's stuff that I forgot. But yeah, stay tuned for more stuff. But thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.